This is the first piece I cut off, and I cleaned up the ends of it a little bit. I'm using this as a gauge. You always gauge with the same piece. Don't use one cut off piece after another, because any difference in it will be compounding on each cut. So this is my first piece. I'm using it as a gauge so I don't have to use the tape measure each time. Also, the table on this thing is about 3.5 inches. Your standard size of 4x lumber, and I got a piece of 4x4 on the other end of this bar holding it up at the same level. So this is how I clean off the ends of it. This is me doing things my way at my house. I don't need any critics criticizing. This is how I do it. You do it how you want to. Got my 5 pieces made that go on there, and now I'm going to measure across the top of that and cut one off to be the top rail. On a piece that long, you just don't want to make a mistake, even though that's not real expensive material, but it's costly because it would take me an awful long time out of my day to go and buy another length of it. So measure twice, cut once is always a standard rule with metal work and carpentry, drywall, any of that. Measure twice, cut once. Got this thing all welded up on the outside, but I'm going to use this. I'm welding this piece upside down because I want gravity in my favor so that I get a nicer, tighter weld instead of welding it overhead. We'll turn it back over and weld it back in place and then straighten it out. Actually, for the inside, I'm going to turn this thing around. First, I'm going to grind these down flat because this is going to be on the inside of the bed. We're going to put the sheet metal on that. So I'm going to grind these down flat. Since I was in this position, I wasn't able to get the prettiest welds. So we'll just grind this side down flat and smooth and hide those welds behind the sheet metal that's going to go on it. And so what I'm going to do now is lower the bed down flat, and then we'll just let gravity be in my favor to weld up the last side, which is closing up the back side of these. There. Now I got this down. I'm going to go on ahead and just weld these up, each one of these 5 across here, and then this thing is mounted on here upside down. I'm just using it here as a mounting place and as a lineup for these underneath, so I don't have to take all these measurements. I just follow what's already there so that each one of these is even with the one underneath it. So after I weld these up, then we'll just flip this thing over and weld it on top of this. Now we got all these done. Go on ahead and chip them all. Well, they sure are pretty when you got gravity in your favor, aren't they? Got those faces ground off, and now it's time to flip this thing around and start welding it on to where it's going to be when it's finished. Got a little bit of a situation here. I welded one end on, and as you can see, this thing arched up and can't pull these down. I don't have a clamp that big, and so it's made this thing a little bit off from what it was originally. So that's because when I welded these shrunk and caused this top rail to bend. What I'm going to do is weld just a blank weld across the top of these, right above each one of these in a couple of places, and that will cause the top part to shrink and make it arch back up again. It may not come back all the way, but it will come up some. Ran a few beads up here on top of this bar and shrunk this side of it. Now you got to be careful when you do this that you stay in the middle of the bar unless you want to bend it to one side. If you want to bend it to one side, then you weld on that side of it and it'll shrink it over. It'll make a banana out of it going that direction too. So you stay in the middle. I ran a few crossways and then I ran some across down the middle there. As you can see, yeah, we still got a gap in the middle, but not on the end. It raised the thing right up. We got it straight. We pull that down and all my gaps are closed. Ready to weld this down. I'm ready to start welding some plates on there. I'm just going to have to piece them together. I'll cut them off afterwards. It'd be a little easier to cut them that way. Just use this thing here for a guide. Got it almost done. Got it usable. I ran out of welding rods and ran out of daylight. These pins here. Well, there it is. Can't finish welding it until either I get some more rods or we have a day that's not so windy and I can finish it up with the wire welder, with the MIG welder. I think it looks good. It'll haul more rock now without dribbling out of there. All right. I got this tailgate done, about as done as it's going to get. Finished all my welding on it. Cleaned it up a little bit with the grinder. Let me go ahead and close it. Put these pins in there. A little bit of a gap up here. I might take a piece of this angle iron like this and just put it on here, where flat side here, and then comes back out this way to kind of block any gravel and stuff from coming out of there. I haven't decided to do that. I might. Really the corners aren't where the problem is. It's on the sides and in the middle of the tailgate is where it tends to be loaded a little high when they load me with a big high lift loader. Well, this job is done. The next job is going to be a wheel cylinder on this brake right here. That'll be another day.